Dr. Marcum, welcome to Heartwise Live. This is our new webcast that we're doing live every month on the first Thursday, as long as the schedules align.
Yeah,
right?
and I thought, Nick, this is a great idea to do this because we've getting more and more people that have questions, and it's hard to answer all the questions on air. And sometimes what I do is when I see a trend, I try to address those with a different video or 1 minute short. But we always like to interact directly with the people we serve and talk to them. And this is a great way where we can sort of get to know people and answer their questions to the best that we can and just interact. It's sort of a great way to go. And I'm glad that we can do this. And hopefully, as people come on board, they can invite their friends and neighbors, and it can grow over time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm just looking here. We're trying to go live on Facebook as well, but I'm not sure that one may go live at 7.
Okay, well,
that's okay.
Sure.
We'll just stay here with our YouTube friends.
We still have 3 minutes today. So my day, today I work Tuesday and Wednesday this week in the hospital, acute care cardiology. Had some real challenging individuals, let me tell you, some real challenging cases. And
I can't imagine.
It keeps me hopping, I'll tell you. So I was pretty tired when I came home. So I rested up today, and I had a live radio 1 hour program at Moody Radio today. And today we talked about on Moody, we answered people's questions like we're doing tonight. We talked about some of the recent trip we had to Arizona, and I'll talk about that. Then I did some volunteer work at a lifestyle center this afternoon. And after that, I decided, I put out a 1 minute video earlier this week on sleep apnea. And I realized that a lot of people were interested in sleep apnea. So I expanded on that. And Nick, sleep apnea is something that a lot of people have. They don't even know they have sleep apnea. And some symptoms of sleep apnea would be, snoring, waking up suddenly, tired in the morning. But what usually clues me into it as a provider is people will have high blood pressure. They'll have a funny heart rhythm. They'll be tired a lot. And then I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, have you ever considered that you might have sleep apnea? And then we check into it and they say, well, the test is not that hard. What they have to do is they go into a sleep center and they hook you up to a lot of stuff. It's sort of hard to sleep there, but they hook you up some stuff. They actually give you a little bit if you need to put you to sleep. And then they have you hooked. They have your brain hooked up, your heart hooked up, your oxygen hooked up. They have you hooked up, and they watch you. And then they have this criteria that they go through. But the main one is, does your oxygen drop? Does your oxygen drop when you're asleep, and whether you just quit breathing altogether? Then, if they do, what a good sleep center will do is they'll go ahead the next night and give you treatment. And it's called CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure. They'll put it on you, and the devices have got smaller and smaller, and they'll make sure it's doing the job, working for you. And a lot of people have a hard time getting used to it, but they say after they've been on it for a while, they really, really feel great. They feel great.
Yeah.
They wear it and just wear it for a long time.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who got on a CPAP machine, and he's just feeling so much better now. It's a little awkward, he said, but after a little while, he gets used to it. Hey, I want to take a minute to welcome Joyce, Jimmy, Davina, and Brian. Thank you all for joining us. You're the first live visitors we have on the stream tonight, and we've got a question.
Yeah, this is our first time, so we want to answer your questions, and then if you'd let us know where you're from, that would be great. Right now I'm in my home in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this gives us a chance to know each other a little bit better. And I was off today, didn't have to work in the hospital. And I live on top of a mountain, so I get a lot of fresh air. And for those that like to exercise outdoors, exercising outdoors is a great thing to do, because when you do outdoors, you get the sunshine with all the different types of rays, you get the fresh air, you get to feel the earth on your ground, and if you're out in the forest, there's these chemicals that the forest throw out called terpenes. And that's sort of an aroma that actually helps your health as well. So I did my walk today, so I got some terpenes in me, Nick. So So let's get at this first question here and if the people that are there, if you want to, let us know where you're from. If you have any questions, we're happy to do the best we can. And then we have a bank of questions that other people have written in that we like to answer as well.
Yeah. So Jimmy has a question. He says, how about cremation? Dr. Marcum, do you have any thoughts on cremation?
Well, these are just my personal views. Okay. And I really, as people know that looked at the website, I believe that the source of truth is the Bible. And I also believe that the Bible is ahead of scientific truth. So we have to test everything by the Bible. And sometimes the Bible doesn't comment on certain things. Okay. And sometimes it does. But remember, cremation, a lot of people have different customs throughout the world. Okay. And the way I look at it is a lot of it's the customs, but ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We know that eventually we're going to decompose. So personally, I know people that get cremated. I know people that don't get cremated. So I really don't have, I'm just going to support whatever family belief that they have. And there's a text that I like to ask people to go to in Proverbs. It says, in all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he's going to direct your individual path. So when it comes to these issues and, you don't know what to do, the person asks or the God, ask God, say, God, direct my paths. But I think it's a lot what people are comfortable doing, whether that's a traditional funeral, a cremation. Remember in the Bible, sometimes, they had all sorts of burials in the Bible. And sometimes I'm reading the Old Testament now, Nick and Jimmy, and sometimes in the Bible, they had very violent deaths. They were dismembered and cut apart. A lot of times they did they burn people. So I don't think I think this is a very personal decision. But as far as I'm concerned, I think cremation is a viable option. But if people don't believe in that, I think that's fine as well. Now, how's that for not answering a question specifically?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer because, there's not a right way and a wrong way here, I don't think.
Yeah, and they've been been doing cremation for years and years, and just think of the martyrs. A lot of the martyrs got cremated because they got thrown on the fire pit, so to speak. But I know it's very popular. It's less expensive from what I hear, and if you're in the ground long enough, you're going to eventually turn into dust anyway, unless you have one of these special cryopreservative things that some people are going to these days, where they freeze the body. And I don't really go for that, but I know some people are freezing their remains as well nowadays. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more
Hey,
questions?
I want to welcome Joyce from Central North Carolina. We appreciate you tuning in. And Lori says Michigan has the best beaches anywhere. I'm not going to fight you on that one. You do have beautiful beaches, even though I think it's a little cold up there. What do you think?
Nick, we went up there one time, and
we did. We did.
Nice, so I'm for Michigan beaches, but I don't think I'd want to do it in the wintertime. And I bet you
not this time of year.
I bet you it's still cold up there where Joyce was. So
yeah, let's go to Melania's question here. She says, "Hi, Dr. Marcum. How can I take my blood pressure without getting anxious about the readings?
Okay.
Before I take it, I get anxious." You've got some good tips on this one.
Yes, well, we have a video on it, but I think, Nick, a lot of people go to the doctor and they have their blood pressure measured, and it's a false reading because they're nervous. A lot of people just get nervous. So you have to, what I tell people to do is first of all, don't write down your measurements at home, because when you go to the doctor's office, you're even going to be more anxious. So if it's normal in the doctor's office, it's really, really normal. So, and it's a good thing to do because blood pressure sometimes is undetected. They call it a silent killer. And if it goes on for years and years and years, it can actually damage organs. So it's a good thing to do. So what I tell people to do at home, no stimulants, go someplace that's nice and quiet. Okay. Go there and get a chair. Okay. I didn't bring my blood pressure cuff. Otherwise, I'd show everyone how to do it. And the next thing you want to do is you want to breathe deep for about 5 minutes. And that's hard for a lot of people to do, but you breathe in through your nose, Hold it for 5 seconds and blow it out slow. Do that for about 5 minutes. What that does is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. That turns off some of the stress chemicals in your body, which are adrenaline, cortisol, those things. It helps relax your muscles a little bit. So I do that for 5 minutes. Then you have to get a cuff and you put it around your upper part of your arm and you pull back the sleeves. So you pull back the sleeves, then you put the cup on, and you want to put it about heart level. You don't want to have it hanging down, hanging up, about the heart level. Then you start breathing deep again. Then you hit the button and record it, and that's reading number one. Okay, so you write that down, and then come back the next day and do it. And sort of do the same routine over and over. And hopefully, after you do it enough times, you will get conditioned to that. You'll be relaxed enough and get a true blood pressure. So that's one thing that we do. Another thing that we do is they take the blood pressure when people are asleep sometimes. We can get monitors when people are asleep. They're called ambulatory blood pressure monitors, where it goes up all day long. Okay. Every hour it measures your blood pressure. You're not even aware of it. And then we sort of look at it, what it is when people are asleep, and compare it to when they're awake. And that gets us a feel for what their overall blood pressure is all during the day. That's another route. Now, if a person is so anxious that their blood pressure is up all the time, then we still have to do something about that. But if it's up just high for a little while and goes back down, we call that situational blood pressure. And when people have that, I have them take the deep breathing, relax. They can find things to be happy about, thankful for, make endorphins, do those other natural things that can lower down a transient high blood pressure. So that's what I do. So, I mean, and now there's other ways we can do it, but the other ways are more invasive. That's where we put needles into people, that kind of thing. Don't want to do that at the house. So I hope that
Sounds
answers
like
the question there.
sounds like some good thoughts there.
Yeah.
Let's go to Brian's question here. I'm going to put it on the screen. A lot of people that promote vegetarian or plant-based vegetarian, which I am, they suggest eating only 2 meals a day. So we're eating vegetarian or plant-based meals, which is the best you can do, but only 2 meals a day. What does that look like, Dr. Marcum? Is that beneficial?
Is this Brian here? Is it Brian?
Yeah.
Where's Brian from? Does it say where he's from?
Let's see. I'm not sure. Let's see. Brian, Ohio. Brian from Ohio.
Yay for Ohio. I'm just wondering whether Brian is an Ohio State fan or not. A lot of people get into football in Ohio. So anyway, so Brian, I can tell you what I do. Okay, I am a diabetic, and I eat 2 meals a day. I never miss breakfast. My biggest meal's a lunch, and then I don't eat dinner. If I get hungry, I'll eat a little snack. We call that intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting lets the body rest, lets the body recover. I think it's a very good way to do things. So I think 2 meals a day is very, very good. And what that can look like, it depends on your individual choices. Some people for breakfast, I make a big smoothie and I put extra things in it like beet powder, flaxseed. I also put extra, I have a plant-based protein powder, and I put that in a base of soy milk or almond milk or something like that. And I stir that up real good. And if you have some berries, I don't put berries in it because I'm diabetic. It bumps my sugar up. But berries or anything you want to put, an option. A lot of people like to do oatmeal. I see people do avocado toast. Everyone does a plethora of things. But the nice thing about eating in the morning a big meal, you usually burn that off during the day. And I always start the day off with a couple big glasses of water. Now, if you're not diabetic, you want to probably do some juice and some of those other things. Some people even actually eat their big meal at breakfast and don't eat traditional breakfast foods. Then at lunch, I usually eat a big salad, lots of greens, lots of different colors. I'll put some protein in it, some beans. And then at night, if I'm getting really hungry and I feel like I just can't make it, of course I drink water during the day, but I might have a little bit of nuts or some seeds, something like that, just to take the edge off, but to not make my digestive system work too hard. But I applaud you, Brian, because most people don't even think about their nutrition Most people have their biggest meal before they go to bed. They're eating a lot of fast foods. They're eating a lot of processed foods. That's what we want to minimize. And we want to try to eat more things that are growing, that are fresh, that are alive. Those things tend to fill us up. They have less calories in it. They're not caloric dense. They have all the phytonutrients. And a lot of the times, plants can be used as treatments for specific conditions. For instance, we just had a question about hypertension. Greens and beets have been shown to have nitrates, which make nitric oxide, which makes the arteries bigger, can lower your blood pressure, and keep your blood vessels healthy. So Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." So he really thought a plant-based diet was a good idea. One of the original nutrition studies in the whole earth, and this is where I think the Bible's ahead of science. Science has proved that plant-based nutrition is superior to some of the typical stuff that people are eating now. But in Daniel 1, Daniel and his friends ate a plant-based diet, pulse and water, and they had a compare group. And after a short period of time, they compared the two groups, and the people that ate pulse and water, the plant-based, were far superior. Now, I'm wondering whether that group that did that, whether that rumor, since this was in the king's court, the largest Babylonian empire, I'm wondering whether that information got disseminated throughout the earth. And by the time the Greek Empire took over, maybe Hippocrates had heard about this and said, hey, yeah, they had a nutritional study then. Maybe he had gotten a hold of the old Bible in Genesis where it talks about eating healthy like this. And maybe he applied some of those principles to his patients before he came up with this saying that went around the world for years. And now today, we're getting back to proving that with evidence-based medicine, that these diets are best for preventing chronic disease and treating a lot of things that come our way.
Yeah.
So answer Brian's question there.
Yeah, let's go to J and K. Here we go. Struggling with insomnia and anxiety. Any suggestions?
Okay, well, let's do anxiety first. Okay. I came up with a 1-minute stress buster not too long ago. Okay, so I'm going to go through that for everyone. So when you're anxious or having one of those moments, here's a couple things I would give it a go. First 3 clap. 1, 2, 3. And that sort of gets everyone's attention. You know, you're clapping, but you're not clapping for yourself. You're clapping for the one that's going to help you through this. And that's going to be your God, your relationship with God. So that's who you're applauding. You're applauding God because he's going to give you the power, right? Okay. Then after that, you take 3 deep breaths. Hold it in for your nose, 5 seconds. Blow it out slow. What that does is it turns on the opposite of the stress chemistry in the body. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. So if you get good at deep breathing, you can actually feel your heart rate slow down, your muscles relax. So we want that to happen. That's also going to help get you more oxygen throughout your body as well, helps your body relax. The next thing I tell people is ask yourself these 3 questions, because frequently people become anxious because of these 3 things. Are they taking something that someone else said personal? Okay. Are you taking something personal? Number 2, are you overreacting to a situation? Okay. And 3, are you happening to jump to a conclusion about something? Well, those are 3 common situations that cause people anxiety. And once people realize they're falling into this category, they say, hey, I'm doing that. I don't have to worry. Now, another thing I would not say to do, I wouldn't read if you're putting out internet stuff, when people say stuff, I wouldn't read that stuff, you know, because sometimes that can create anxiety too, this social media and clicking and you know, posting. So if you're prone to that, you might want to cut back that. So that's the next thing we do. The next thing I would do is laugh out loud 3 times. You can do a fake laugh, that works. If someone can make you laugh, you can think of a funny situation, you can laugh, ha, 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 ha. Well, what that does to your body, remember the text in the Bible, a merry heart does good like medicine. So when you laugh, you make endorphins. So that's what laughing does. It makes some endorphins, which turns down some of the stress chemistry. And then last, I would say, turn to Philippians 4, verse 6. It says, be anxious. This is the biblical prescription. This is what God knew we were going to have this. He knew we were going to be up against this. This is what he's asked us to do. Be anxious about nothing. Nothing. So he doesn't want us to be anxious. He knows we are going to be, but he didn't want us to be. Be anxious about nothing, but in everything, prayer, supplication. So when you have this, the last is recite that text, and then if you're still feeling anxious, pray and go to worship. So that's a good, quick way to deal with anxiety. That might also help a little bit with insomnia, which is the other question we want to attack. So, for those of you who have insomnia, the first thing is that means not sleeping well in the evening. It's important that you sleep. If you don't get good rest, things just don't go well. This is very common. Okay. So, the first thing I do in talking to someone that has insomnia is I ask them a bunch of questions. And I'm not going to ask you this many questions, but you just go through them in the mind. Do you have a medical problem that might make you not sleep well at night? And a couple of them that come to mind are sleep apnea, diabetes. When the blood sugar goes high, you have to urinate a lot, big prostates, certain medications. Those are some of the more common things that might get people up at night that are medical. Chronic pain, back pain, being uncomfortable. Those things can get you up at night quite a bit. I have some people that I've talked that have different rashes and skin conditions, and it itches and that kind of thing, and that keeps them up. So if you have a medical condition, treat that. Okay. So the next thing I tell people is, if you remember, there's chemicals in the brain that help you sleep. One of them is melatonin. That helps you sleep. Another one's serotonin. That helps you sleep. And there's some that don't help you sleep. Adrenaline, that doesn't help you sleep. That's a stress chemistry. So we want to enhance those. And the way you can enhance those is through diet. You can, there's certain nuts, and seeds that have tryptophan in it, different things that get turned into melatonin. Some people, if they think they have a deficiency, they take a melatonin tablet, 2 milligrams, 5 milligrams, to see if that might help boost their melatonin, which help them sleep. Other things you want to do is make sure you're not doing anything stressful that keeps you awake. Screen time, lights, eating big at night, stimulants in the body earlier in the day. I had a guy the other day that was drinking Red Bull at 2 o'clock. That's why he couldn't sleep. I saw someone one day that at night they were watching some really violent movies at about 8 o'clock at night, and then they wondered why they couldn't sleep. They made a bunch of adrenaline. Their brain kept playing it over. It couldn't relax. So make sure you don't have anything stimulant going on. Try to keep it dark. Keep it very comfortable in the place you're at. I like to have people do deep breaths, exercise earlier in the day. If you're tired, you're more likely to rest at night. Get into a comfortable routine where you do the same thing over and over. They call that sleep hygiene. And if you do sort of the same routine over and over, and then if that doesn't work and you get in a good routine, you get rid of the stimulants. Although some people try different types of tea. There's a tea that works on some people that not on others. Valerian tea can sometimes relax people. Chamomile tea can sometimes relax people. We've talked about the melatonin. I've had some people that use magnesium. They try that magnesium glycinate. That's the one that some people use to help sort of settle their brains down. That one seems to work more in women. I don't know why exactly, but it seems to settle them down. But most people cannot sleep because of something called rumination. And rumination is where we play things in the brain over and over and over. We think of something that happened or something in the past, and we go over and over. And so what I tell people that find that pattern at night, I would invite them to go to the Bible and start reading the Psalms nice and slow. I can't tell you how many times I've had problems sleeping, and I start reading the scripture again, and somehow I just go to sleep. Not that the scriptures are boring, but that seems to be a more relaxing thing that I do that helps. Reading these calm scriptures, and you're not alone. Lots of people have this, and some people just have to work through it the best they can. As we get older, we need less sleep, but most people need a good 6 to 7 hours of good sleep. The best sleep is a sleep you get before midnight. There's some studies that show if you can sleep your hours before midnight, you make more growth hormone and things like that that help the body recover than if you sleep like from 2 a.m. to 8 o'clock or something like that. So there's some studies that show that earlier in the evening you go to bed. I like to go to bed on an empty stomach so it's not digesting. An empty mind, I mean, not an empty mind, but don't put a lot of social media in it, that kind of thing. Now, if you have kids like Nick does, it's a whole different ballgame because kids can keep you up, animals can keep you up. There's lots of other things in neighborhoods that keep you up that you just don't have control over. Sometimes you just have to give it to God and trust Him to help you work through these things.
Yeah, Dr. Marcum, one of your favorite verses that you share on the channel is Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So, it's a promise.
Yes. Come to me, and I love that promise, Nick. And anyway, I did not. We'll tell our guys here. This is going to be a great forum where we all get to know each other a little better. I know it's hard when you're on a YouTube channel or a 1-minute chat, but thank you everyone for sharing this with people. Because our real message, and you are all part of it that's watching today, is that the key to health is Christ. And we start our health in worship. And we want that because that will guarantee us permanent healing, permanent disease reversal, because the Bible is true. And I can prove that. It would take too long tonight to prove it, but there's tons of proof that the Bible's true. I recently was out in Phoenix, where one of the things I wanted to talk to the other scientists is let them know that the Bible is ahead of science. And often the science is not correct, but the Bible is always correct. So when a study comes out, I always like to look at the Bible and make sure that it agrees with the Bible and Scripture. So that was my real message, that the Bible should be our true north, our source of truth. That's what's going to give us through that relationship with God. If you believe in me, you're going to have everlasting life. That's permanent healing. And then He also gives us the power to make changes one step at a time, to help us see what truth is and help us apply it. We all have problems. We all have hang-ups. That's why we need a Savior. So that is the true message of why we do this. And you guys can help spread it by sharing it, by posting it, by sending it to your friends and neighbors, because we try just to love people and not judge them. We try to meet their needs, introduce them to the real source of health, and grow with them as a community. And Nick, it's grown since the pandemic years. This is when it really got hold. We felt like we needed to do this during the pandemic because people were shut in. They felt isolated. They needed some just buddies to be friends with. And that's where it all started. And it's sort of grown from then. And we've kept it going one step at a time. And now I'm finding more and more people are finding their communities in these social media platforms. So there's a lot of bad social media out there. I did a radio program this morning on a radio program, Moody Radio, and they had this podcast in the back, and there was this. There were the Kelseys. Have you ever heard of them, Nick? The Kelseys?
I don't think I have.
Well, they had a big podcast, and they had a baby with earphones on. They were interested in the podcast. And, people were just flocking to that. They have all sorts of people coming at. Well, why can't God do the same thing with the truth? Why can't, if we spread this from person to person, the Holy Spirit blesses, why can't we spread this? And if just one person gets a blessing from someone's comments or someone's prayer, and we encourage each other that come on these chats to let's pray for each other, let's encourage each other, let's help each other, let's be there for each other, let's answer questions. So I think that's sort of a great. So that's what I did this morning. Then the afternoon I did some volunteer work at a lifestyle center. And there I was doing some education. And one thing that came up that was very interesting is, most people, if they really they follow biblical principles and the parts aren't wearing out fast, medicines was originally designed for emergencies and ports that are worn out and for people that didn't want to make lifestyle changes. But
Yeah.
most people that will do the lifestyle changes, and that includes, it starts with worship, that will do these, a lot of them, if they don't have genetic problems, might not need to take as many medications, deal with the expenses, deal with the side effects. So that's why in our YouTube, we started talking about natural remedies. Of course, I think things like walking and deep breathing and being happy, those are natural remedies, but some people can use things like ginger and turmeric and garlic and those type of things. Those can be used appropriately. I'm using hydrotherapy now. Have you ever used hydrotherapy, Nick?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Well, that's where you have whatever part you want to treat. You use 5 minutes hot, 1 minute cold. Now you can do that with hot water bottles, ice. You can have these special hydros, or you can do it in your shower with a water pick. So I've been making myself hot, then I'll make it cold, and then slough it off. And that really it exercises your blood vessels. It dilates, it constricts, it dilates. That's just like going on an exercise, and it really gets the circulation going, sort of gets you awake in the morning. It does a lot of great things.
Well, actually, I guess I have done that. Last week I was at a buddy's place and they just opened up their pool. So we jumped in the cold pool,
Yep.
and then we got in the hot tub, and then back in the cold pool.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't stay in the pool for 5 minutes. It was too cold.
Didn't it sort of get you going?
Oh yeah, woke me up. It was great.
Okay, now do we have any more questions? Do we have any more questions?
We do. I want to go to Sing to Heart here. She says, or he, hi, Dr. Marcum, Morton from Norway. Oh, Morton from Norway. Fantastic.
Wow. Hey, I got something to say about Norway to Morton in a minute. Okay.
Okay. So he's asking, he says in Matthew 6:16, it says, when you fast, so Jesus expects it from his disciples. So beside the spiritual benefits, are there physical benefits if you fast many days? Now, maybe we separate this into the benefits of a fast versus many days, because I think there's probably a point where it becomes a little bit of a hazard.
Yeah, well, let's welcome Morton from Norway. My wife is Norwegian, Morton. Her last name is Jacobson. So she is Norwegian. So our kids have half Norwegian blood in them. So we love Norway. We got a few years ago, we got to visit Oslo, beautiful country. I think it gets cold in the winter. But as far as fasting goes, yes, fasting has spiritual benefits. Okay, no doubt about that. But it also has physical benefits for specific conditions. And that's why you really have to get with your doctor and make sure you don't have any other medical problems. Why I bring that up, I recently heard of someone that did fasting unsupervised, and it was just a water fast. And they were taking some medicines and they got in trouble with that. Okay. They got really sick. They had a passing out episode. They dropped their blood pressure. So you have to be careful. And remember, there's different types of fasting. There's what we call intermittent fasting, like I pretty much do. So I don't eat anything after 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and I let my system rest for those hours. That's very good for diabetes, hypertension, helps lose weight. There's some people that go on water fasts where they go for long periods of time with water and juice, those things. And I wouldn't recommend fasting beyond that, okay? Because if you do that, you're not taking any nutrients in, and your body needs certain nutrients and vitamins to function. So if you go a period of time without vitamins and nutrients and hydration, that can actually be a negative. But some people go longer periods of time with water and juicing and vitamins, and they do that. It can help cleanse out the GI system maybe a little bit better. People use it to lose weight. They use it to help lower blood pressure, these longer fasts, and they sort of use it to sort of reset their body, maybe let the body sort of rest and heal and get some of the ugly stuff out of the body. Now, some people use varying fasting days, and that's very individual, but I would talk to your physician who knows your body in a little bit greater detail. But I really like intermittent fasting, where I don't eat the big meal at night, and I think that's pretty much safe for everybody. But whenever you start a fast, the couple things I would recommend is make sure you hydrate yourself well. Make sure you have your vitamins. You don't want to miss out on your vitamins and nutrients that the body needs to function. But I think that is a very valuable way to treat a lot of conditions, especially intermittent fasting. And some people use it different ways as well. But and of course, we know the spiritual advantages as well.
So, Dr. Markham, I did my very first fast ever, probably about 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
Well, my first intentional fast, I would say. I've done a little intermittent fasting just when I missed a meal here and there, but that wasn't really intentional. But I got up in the morning and I went for a bike ride before breakfast. And then I thought to myself, if I don't eat right now, my body will just keep burning calories. I'm in this active state. It'll be good for me. So I skipped breakfast. And I got to lunchtime and I said, you know what? I could probably just skip lunch and just do a little intermittent fast. And then I got to dinner and I made sure I was drinking water still. But I was like, you know what? I've never done a 24-hour fast. I think this is the time. So I skipped dinner. And then the next day, I was real hungry. But but it actually, like, I've always thought of fasting. I love to eat. And so I've always thought of
You were
fasting.
drinking water the whole time, weren't you?
Yeah, plenty of water. But I've always thought fasting would be just impossible because I love to eat so much. But actually, I found that a little bit of exercise helped keep not a really intense, but just low intensity exercise helped keep the hunger reasonable. It
Well,
was like I wasn't starving.
well, there's certain animals that go for long periods of time without eating.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
one of
yeah.
my, the bears, they fast. They build it up
All
and they
winter.
for a long winter time. But there's other animals that don't have a meal. And
Yeah,
actually, some of the studies have shown that people that fast actually live longer. The body goes into a let's stay alive mode. So there's some
yeah,
anti-aging techniques for people that are able to fast for safely for periods of time as well. And of course, when you fast, you burn off some of that weight that people don't need, and it's helped cleanse the body of some impurities if you have that going on. So there's a lot of good things that fasting, if it's done safely, supervised, and you got to be happy doing it. If you're Mr. Grumpy old man and don't like it, it's not going to help very much. If
yeah,
I'm fasting and I'm grumpy and I hate myself, because the grumpy chemistry, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the inflammation that comes from Mr. Grumpy old man might offset the benefit you get from fasting. And then some people, when they quit fasting, they go overboard. The next meal is like gigantic meal because they make up for everything they didn't think they had. That's what animals do a lot. When they get a meal, they don't know when their next meal is coming from sometimes, so they have to put it away and store it.
yep. All right. Thank you, Morton, for that question. And my great grandmother came from Norway, so I got the name Evanson. So one day I'm going to come visit Norway, and maybe we can be friends.
Yeah, and
Let's.
Morton, share us with your friends, and like I said, maybe we can get a good Norwegian contingent there, and we can all learn more about your country as well. So, and also people, once we're sharing these ideas, if you have a good idea or something that works for you, write it in the chat, and we can share it with everyone, because no one has and no one has a corner on knowledge except God, right? So we can all help and learn from each other, and different things will work for one person and different persons another. My background is I'm a board certified cardiologist, so I do a lot of heart. But I've really got interested in the last few years about endothelium, disease reversal. But more than that, I just want people to have eternal healing, and that comes from God. So sometimes in the hospital, I know people aren't going to do well. I just try to keep them alive long enough to make sure that they've had a chance to decide whether or not they accept Jesus as their Savior. So sometimes we do that as well. And unfortunately, most people that are tuning into this are on the upper end of healthy. And I'm hoping we get some people that aren't so healthy that we can help, because those are the people that we can reach out and love on the most. But usually people that come to these chats are usually pretty much healthy to begin with, and they have a lot of health knowledge. But that's why it's good to invite your friends, and because we want to help all people, not just some people. We want to help everyone, from people that have addictions to people that are on medicines, that have a bypass surgery, to have health problems, that have weight problems. We want to reach out to everybody.
Yep. All right, let's move on to Cindy's question. We'll put it on the screen here. Cindy says, my 85-year-old mother keeps getting extremely painful ankle ulcers. Do you have a remedy that would help solve this, or at least reduce the amount of times that she gets them?
Okay, so ankle ulcers, 85. So first of all, I would want to make sure her circulation is good. Okay, if you have poor circulation, things don't heal well. Okay, so that's one thing. We'll talk about how they can increase the circulation in a minute. The second thing, I would want to make sure she doesn't have something that would make her immune system weak. The most common one is diabetes. Okay. So once that's done, so she has ulcers, we want those to heal. So we want to enhance blood flow. And we can do that sometimes. I don't know what the ankles look like, but hot and cold treatments can sometimes bring more blood to the area. Exercise can make blood flow with an area, though at 85, that might be difficult. If she has diabetes, make sure that is treated well. Make sure her whole body is healthy. And then we want to have healthy food. Eating greens, things like beets, healthy foods can help the vessels dilate more, which can bring more blood to that. She wants to avoid processed foods, especially processed sugar, because that can damage the immune system as well. There's different types of, in the natural world, they're using these, what they call poultices, okay? And sometimes, depending on what type of ulcer it is, they can do different types of poultices where they grind up some type of natural remedy. And that can be different things. Ginger is one that they do. There's other poultices they make. And cayenne is one that they sometimes do, but you have to be careful. And then they wrap that area in it. And sometimes that can help depending on what type of ulcer it is. So there's different types of ulcers. There's ulcers that are infected. You handle those that are a certain way. Then there's these other ulcers that aren't really infected. It's just that the blood vessels and the part is not healing well. We handle that well. Some people, if it continues and doesn't get better, see your doctor. There's wound centers that can wrap these and put special salves and treatments on it that might help as well. The natural things that are out there that many people have heard about. I'm trying to think of some that I've seen people do. I've had some people put honey on things. Those are more infections. Charcoal sometimes, but those are for more infections, bee bites, those type of things. So it's really according to what the ulcer looks like. But in general, I'd suggest increasing the circulation, improving your immune system, and have your doctor make sure it's not an infection that might need something more. Make sure you're not diabetic too. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like some good tips there.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Cynthia gives us the next question here. Dr. Marcum, what do you think of red light therapy?
Cynthia, I don't know much about red light therapy, so I don't have much of I've heard about it, okay, but I don't have much of a saying on that. I guess some people, I can ask my AI. I got AI, and I can give you some information about that. Let me type it and get some information. But there's a lot. I will say this: there's a lot of stuff out there that are marketed that might be over emphasized as health beneficial. They sell it. So this is AI, and AI gives you information from everywhere. I pay for this. It gives you a lot of stuff. So here's the benefits of red light therapy. Okay. Helps your skin tone, pain relief, muscle recovery, hair growth, improve circulation, mood enhancement. Okay. That's what some of the claims that are out there. So that they say red light works by it stimulates your skin, it stimulates your cellular activities to do more, because they say red light's absorbed by the energy part of the cell called the mitochondria, and this makes them make more energy, so it increases that. So they like it because it's safe, few side effects, but it says it might not be for everybody. So they say it usually lasts from a few minutes to about 30 minutes. So I would give it a try. I mean, and see if it helps you. But some of these things are overhyped. I don't particularly use it, so I don't know. But get back with us. And if it seems to be something that's really beneficial to you in stimulating your mitochondria for energy production. But remember, there's other ways to stimulate your mitochondria too. One of the best ways is exercise. Some people don't realize it, but exercise probably stimulates energy production in the mitochondria better than almost anything. Exercise and rest also helps energy production in the body as well. So those are some other thoughts. Which works the best? I don't know. Red light therapy might be easier. And just looking at what AI said about it, I would say give it a try. I don't think it's going to be toxic, and see if it helps you. But if it costs a lot of money, I would do exercise, resting, and common sense things first. Also, sunlight has some of the same properties of light. In addition to, we say it activates vitamin D, but sunlight has other principles that helps us with energy production as well. And if you think about the body in creation, at the beginning, God gave us sunlight, that kind of light He wanted us to absorb. He didn't really give us red light and all these other things to use. So I think if we can get back natural first and save all these other things, if doing all the natural things that God gave us doesn't work, that's the way I sort of usually work in my life. Nick,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on red light?
I have never experienced it, and so I have no comments.
Okay.
But Cynthia also comments here. She says she uses it on her back and it helps.
Then
Plus,
go
she uses it for her dog. So hey, great. Yeah, if there's no negative side effects you're experiencing.
Thank you for sharing that, because now we have something else to add. And I know that when I have a lesion, when I get out in the sun, usually it chirps up a little bit, from the sunlight, usually helps the different lesions that I have. And if it's helping you, and remember, I learned this not a long time ago, but we now have epigenetics. So different treatments affect different people different ways, depending on how your genes are turned on and off. So, one size does not fit all. And if it's not going to hurt and you can afford it, like Cynthia did, give it a try. So it's helping her. It might help someone else by getting some red light therapy. I've learned something today. So I'm glad I did this, because now I know a little bit more about red light that I can share it with people.
Let's go on to Penny's question here. She says, "Hi, doctor. This is my first time to see you live. How can I lower my blood pressure without taking meds? My cardiologist just prescribed me medication right away." And Dr. Marcum, before you chime in, I want to take a stab at this because I've heard this one before.
Go for it, Nick.
One of the best ways to lower blood pressure, Dr. Marcum, is to go out and get some exercise. Is that right?
That's one of the best ways. Exercise, deep breathing, eat green foods and beets. Green foods and beets have nitrates in them. Try to avoid processed foods and sodium. Get enough rest at night. Intermittent fasting, nothing in the evening, can lower blood pressure. Things like ginger can lower blood pressure some. There's other natural things. Garlic can lower blood pressure. Hawthorn might or might not lower blood pressure a little bit. And then, of course, you want to make sure your blood pressure is good to begin with. Make sure you're taking it correctly, and it's not we talked earlier about that, is how some people get nervous and it's high, but it's not high all the time, and they really don't have it. So those are there's some 5 or 6 things you can do, and add them one at a time. And then if your blood pressure is consistently below 140 on the top, below that and below 90 on the bottom, maybe you could skip your medicine a day if it's okay with your doctor, and see if these natural things that you're doing control your blood pressure. Sometimes just losing weight will cause you to lose blood pressure, because fat makes chemicals that make your blood pressure go high. Not sleeping well at night, sleep apnea, makes the blood pressure go high. So sleeping better at night can make it go high. Things that we have, if you're around people that are getting you irritated, that can make your blood pressure go high. If you have pain in your body, that can make your blood pressure go high. But the things I think work the best naturally are beets and greens. Beets and greens, nitrates, nitric oxide, and like Nick said, exercise every day. Try to burn that fat off. Try to get the blood vessels expanding more. And then I think the things that lower, ginger, turmeric, those type of things, the natural things might lower a little bit, but it works a little bit different in everyone. I've seen garlic lower blood pressure pretty good too. And in this hibiscus tea, that will lower blood pressure. Flax will lower blood pressure. And then the studies, things like flax, hibiscus tea, greens, those things will lower it as much as a blood pressure pill will. But you have to do these things on a regular basis. So there's just a few ideas. There's many more.
So, Dr. Marcum, I want to share a
There's-
question from our YouTube channel. Somebody asked this question on your last video about hypertension. What if you can't convert the nitrates from, say, the beets or the arugula? Is that a common thing? Is that possible? Is that an issue people have?
I've never seen nitrates not being able to be converted to nitric oxide. Remember, it's nitric oxide is the active ingredient that dilates the blood vessels and helps that. So I've never seen a person that actually takes nitrates in, that gets it into the body, that can't make nitric oxide. That is sort of a key for survival. So I would doubt someone would have a problem making getting nitric oxide from nitrates, but if you can't absorb nitrates, that would seem like a pretty big problem that I've never seen. So you might want to go to someone and talk to them about that if you think that's your issue. But I've really not experienced that in my 30 plus years of being a cardiologist.
Yeah, great. Lisa is from Finland. Hello, Lisa. What are your opinions on mental health medication, depression, etc.? Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, welcome from Finland, Lisa. And I am not a trained psychiatrist. I'm a cardiologist, but I can give you my sort of overall feeling about medications for depression and anxiety. Okay. One is I always want to see out why a person is diagnosed with that. That's number one. Number two, I always try to get the body in maximum physical shape with exercise, with rest, with good nutrition, getting the foods that make the chemicals that the pills make, serotonin, different types of foods that make that, a lot of seeds, the beans, the things that make serotonin naturally, make sure people have vitamin D, make sure their thyroid's good, make sure they're exercising, they're resting well, make sure they have people to talk to about their issues, to handle those, do that first. Now, I don't prescribe antidepressants. Now, some people that have genetic tendencies and they benefit, especially from the antipsychotics, okay? Antipsychotic medicines. But for the depression medicines, anxiety medicines, they would have to be really, really bad off for I would see a great benefit in that you couldn't accomplish with medicines or keeping your body as healthy as you can. Because remember, our body makes a lot of these chemicals, serotonin, that these medicines try to reproduce. And it's just not, for many people that have mild symptoms, that they don't even try sometimes all these other things that can be used. I've worked with some different doctors. Now, I'm not an expert on this, but there's many others that will try to do it naturally first. And that's what I would try to do first. Do everything you can with worship, with prayer, with exercise, with all these, cognitive therapy where you had talking groups, where you make sure your nutrition's good. I had one person that did not want to take a depression medicine, and they were depressed, and they went on a walkabout. Okay, they went on the Appalachian Trail for 1 month, got away from everything in the world that was messing with them. They let their brain clear. They let their brain sort of reboot and rest. And guess what? When their brain got the rest that they need and it rebooted like a computer, they felt great. So just having a period of way and of rest helped this type of person. So I think every person is a little bit different when it comes to this. So that's sort of my feelings about this, but I'm no means an expert on this, but that's sort of what I recommend people doing, is try to do it as natural as you can first, God's way. And if that doesn't work, then talk to a mental health professional about things that they can also offer. But remember, years ago, we didn't have any of these medicines. Think about it, 1900, 1920, we didn't have any of these medicines. How did people get along then? And some people have genetically just bad things and they need help. That's a different story. But for other people that are situational or the other things, nutritional, sometimes there's an underlying cause that causes the brain to malfunction. One of the things that causes the brain to malfunction, I think, is lack of worship. So remember, when we worship, we grow a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. And also the studies on worship have shown when we grow that part of the brain, we make good chemicals like oxytocin, healthy dopamine. We turn down some of the stress chemistry. We turn down some of the inflammation of the brain, which causes the brain to malfunction and have these short circuits. So I tell everyone to try to make sure you're in a worship program, plant-based nutrition, exercise, maybe take a walkabout, have a group that you can talk to, and do lots of praying. Lots of praying. Remember, David had some ups and downs in his life, and he worked through it with music. There's many other ways that you can try to do things that also are stimulants that can change your brain, that can maybe help get through this. You remember David played a lot of different instruments, and he sang to King Saul, and King Saul had some mental issues, I think, and that seemed to help King Saul. So there's lots of different ways to work on this naturally, so we don't have to jump first to pills.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And hey, Finland, wow, that's a long way away from Chattanooga, Tennessee, not too far from Norway. So I am surprised at how many people we can reach, we can share with just over the internet. That's incredible. That's incredible.
We've got a good representation from Norway and Finland tonight. That's great.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, any more questions, Nick? Because we've almost wrapped up our time here tonight.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. You were talking about healing through being outside and living the way God designed us to move and being fresh air and sunlight. Last weekend in Phoenix, we were at this conference, and so we were sitting inside a lot and not getting the sunshine. But when we went out and walked just on the golf course, we weren't playing golf, but we went out and walked the golf course. It was beautiful, fresh air, sunlight. It really was what I needed in my soul and gave me a fresh, great state of mind.
But you got to watch out for people hitting golf balls.
Dr. Marcum almost got hit. It was like 2 feet from him. He almost got hit by a golf ball. It was funny, Nick, since he didn't get hit.
Hey, Nick, do we have a question about D3?
Yeah, let's put that up on screen here. Cynthia says many people are low in D3 and K2. So get in the sun and worship God. Dr. Marcum, what are your thoughts on D3 and K2?
I think that's great. I think that's a great suggestion. Get out in the sunshine. Now, some people cannot do that. Okay. And some people do that. And they, for some reason, their D levels are low. So some people do have to take supplementation. Especially the people at high latitudes in Alaska where their depression rate's really high because they're D deficient. They do have to take 3,000 to 5,000 international units of D3 a day. But this suggestion is where to start in getting, that's why God made us. And there's benefits in sunlight beyond what we've discovered so far. There's benefits of being around trees and oxygen. There's benefits of being around people and loving people and worshiping that we're just now unwrapping of all the good things it does for the body.
Yep. Hey, I got to put this on screen real quick. Our friend in Finland is giving us an invitation to come visit the land of the Vikings and the Fords. So I'm putting that on screen just so I'm going to take you up on that. Maybe Dr. Marcum, maybe you can go give a lecture.
I would love to come there and give a lecture. And in fact, I just wrote a good lecture. Or I thought it was a good lecture. I don't know. I gave it, but it was on the physiology of worship and how modern medicine has its limitations. Science has its limitations, and we should start medical care and medical science in the Word of God. And I gave a bunch of evidence from the Bible where the Bible has said it many years before science could prove it. Many years. And we gave, like where God said the earth was round. That was long before Copernicus said that. Where they said there was weight in the wind. That was long before, people proved that. The nutrition studies, and then also the genetic studies. So thank you. We'd love to come, if the finances ever let us do that, we would love to come and visit that beautiful country. I'll bring my wife.
I was mistaken. It's Norway. That was our viewer from Norway. I apologize. I got confused there. It's not Finland, but it's Norway. So
there's sort of, I'm not big.
One day I'm going to come.
Both Scandinavian countries, and I visited Helsinki. Okay, and that's another beautiful place too. I did one of these boat tours, and we stopped in these cities along the way, and it was real fun doing that. So I want to thank people for joining us today. This is our first one, and if you think there's benefits of doing this, we will try to do it again next month. And we're hoping, our goal is to have more and more people come each time and love each other, nurture each other, share some information, but more importantly, talk to them about Jesus and spread that. And with that, let me end tonight in prayer, Nick. Would that be okay?
Yeah, please do.
Father God, I just want to thank you for each individual that joined us tonight. And I pray for blessings on their health. And thank you for being part of their lives, Father. And if they don't know you, Father, please continue to reach for them. And thank you for the time we spent together. And I just want to bless and pray for permanent healing in everyone and help us to glorify you in all we do. And be with us until we can talk again is our prayer. Amen.
Amen. So a big thank you to everybody that joined us tonight. I enjoyed reading the comments in the chats. We tried to get to all the questions that we could, and there were other comments that we didn't mention, but thank you for that. And we will try and do this live stream, the Heartwise Live, on the first Thursday evening Eastern time, around 7 p.m. It's not always going to be on Thursday because sometimes our schedules are just not going to work out that way, but we're going to try and make it the first Thursday. So make sure you're following us on YouTube, and eventually we'll get the stream up on Facebook as well. It didn't work tonight, but we'll get it up there next time. And we want to thank you for being part of this. Dr. Marcum, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I mean, it was fun and a lot of great questions, a lot of great input tonight. And hopefully our numbers will continue to grow as we spread it around to different people. And just thank you everyone for joining us. And we're going to see you again next month. And you can watch, which I try to make a video every week. That we release that, and let's everyone pray for each other. Our ministry is in a transition period of growth and praying that God will lead us and guide us in how we are reaching the world, because we think this is an avenue to reach people. We meet their needs, we introduce them to Jesus, and we let the Holy Spirit take it from there, right? And it doesn't matter what denomination you're in. We want you to be in Christ. We want you to give Christ a try. And if you've never given Christ a try, we want to encourage that. And if we can help that in any way, shape, or form, we want to encourage that, because God has his people from everywhere, all around the world. It says, if you believe in me, he's going to give us a gift. And that gift is peace and everlasting life. So everyone, just go have a peaceful week, and we're going to be praying for you. And we hope to see you again at our next chat. Right, Nick?
Yep. I think that'll do it for tonight. Thank you, Dr. Marcum. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. And we'll see you in about a month. Thanks. All right. I just shut it down.